Yeah, I think Crawford. Everyone I'm speaking to at the moment is sort of Crawford, but we shall see. My minds are there to be changed, and then as you sort of get into the fight and start studying it, thinking about it, it might change. But they're both exceptional talents. I think Crawford maybe just edges him out.
Very good fight there again, and that fight is a you pick 'em as well. I always lean more toward Bud because I saw more of Bud, and I know more about Bud's skills. I know Bud can change. Bud can do things, can make changes on the fly like a real person, like most great champions can do. I haven't seen Spence really ever have to make those changes because I haven't seen him in that situation yet. So now, whether he can make on that, I'm not saying he can't. I just never seen him have to do it, but he may be able to. If he can make those changes, we in for one hell of a fight. If he can hurt Crawford early, we in for one hell of a fight. But from what I've seen, I don't know that he can make those changes. And being great is about how adaptable you can be. Can you make these changes? Can you adapt to what's happening and make the necessary changes to propel in a fight? If you could do that and make those proper adjustments, then you can do something. If you can't make those adjustments, then you're gonna fall by the wayside. Now we never seen him, like I say, in a position where he had to make adjustments because we only seen him really fight one way. We see him mostly pressure people. We don't see him outbox people. We see him pressure people, weigh you down, and then take you out because he's a bigger guy for the weight class. Um, will that work against Crawford? We don't know. We don't think it will, but we don't know. So we can't count nothing out. Like I said, that's why I said you pick 'em fight. Spencer's much bigger, used to being in with much bigger guys. Crawford is more adaptable and can make more adjustments. I know, but like I said, I'm not saying Spence can't. We just never seen him have to.
I just want to see the fight. I'm gonna go to Vegas. I'm gonna go see the fight, bro. I really can't pick who's gonna win that fight. I'm just excited about it. It's just a lot of buzz around. I'm excited. I think maybe they could have fought a few years ago, but both of them still undefeated. Both of them still the champs at 147. So, I really just want to see the fight, bro. I really can't pick a winner. And I'm not just telling you this on camera. I'll tell you this off camera, bro. I really don't know who's gonna win that fight. I really can't pick a winner. They just they both so high level caliber fighters that I don't know. I can't. I just want to see the fight and see it. This is like another, like a Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns type of thing.
Breakdown. It's a fight where pretty much every round is going to be closely contested, which is what you want from the elites in the sport. And feels like this fight could have happened a couple of years ago, but we've got to be grateful that it's happening now. I think Crawford wins.
Crawford. I'm going out there for it as well, which is incredible, insane. It's such a hard fight to call. I just feel like Crawford, when the going gets tough, has more tools in his tool bag than Spence. It's weird. I think Spence fights one way, and that one way is incredible, by the way, but it's one way, and he doesn't really... I've watched a lot of his fights recently now, back. It's one way, and that one way will grind you down, but it's only one way, and it's a very good one way. Whereas Crawford, I'm telling you now, that guy seems to be able to fight 5 or 6 ways, and he could be really struggling against Spence, and I think he will then adjust and do something different. Whether he switches to southpaw, whether he fights on the ropes and says, okay, let's try this, he will find a way to win. And I've got Crawford coming from behind to win a razor-thin decision or a late stoppage.
I think Terence Crawford's just got an extra string to his bow, and he's just got that little bit more, and I think he wins that one.
I keep going back and forth. I do. I keep going back and forth. I know that Crawford's very versatile, orthodox southpaw. I thought that he looked really well against Davison last time out. I thought that he looked like he was adding some things to his game. And I was impressed with that performance. And then I also look at Spence and I can see how he could end up struggling to keep Spence off. I think that there were certain things, certain areas of Spence's game that I saw last time out that were key or will be key to him having success with Crawford.
I can see, I mentioned there that Crawford's very versatile, orthodox southpaw. I can see how I can see a scenario where he's starting to struggle to hold Spence off. Should I go orthodox? Should I go southpaw? Hasn't really committed to anything, and he's ended up getting a little, not really establishing anything because he's not quite sure what way to go about it. I can also see a scenario where Spence gets a little bit carried away, a little bit over-eager, and gets brought onto a shot on the counter. Very efficient Spence. Yes, it's one of them. Like it's a proper 50-50. So I think that the man who is better prepared on the night, I think that if they fought 10 times, it could be 5-5. Put it that way.
Right, pull them splinters out, Ben, and answer, please. Who wins?
When it was first announced, I was going Crawford. The last couple of weeks, I've said Spence. So ask me week of the fight, and then I'll decide.
Yeah, I do have a say. Well, what I will say, it's a historic fight. It's kind of one for the ages. It's, you go back to the Four Kings. You talk about Hagler, Duran, Hearns, and Ray Leonard, and that's the sort of fight that we're getting here. Unbelievable fight against two unbelievable fighters. Errol Spence is the bigger man in the fight. You got to remember that Terence Crawford's come up from lightweight. He won his first world title against Ricky Burns at lightweight. Now fighting at welterweight against a man who fought, I think he may have fought at middleweight as an amateur, or maybe once or twice, I'm not sure. Certainly a big welterweight anyway. Yeah, he's a big guy, but he's had a few issues outside the ring, car crashes, pretty bad ones. I love both guys. I think they're fantastic athletes and fighters. But I'm just edging towards Terence Crawford to find a way. I think Crawford's a bit of a genius, I think he's an unbelievable fighter. I'm saying that Errol Spence is too, but I think Crawford is extra special.
I'm gonna go with Crawford. Crawford sets traps very well. He sets traps. And you know what I mean? And I will say this, he fights righty, then he goes lefty, then he goes righty. But if you see him staying lefty for more than 3 rounds, that means he's got you figured out.
I'm on Bud's side. I'm on Bud. I believe he just has more dog in him. You know what I mean? I think when it comes down to it, he will want it more. He has that more roughness, that readiness and toughness in him, where look what he's done and all his whole career. You just see him and he's an animal man. But I'm not taking away from Spence because Spence is also an animal. But I just believe that Crawford has the edge for me, and it is his adaptability, his being able to switch stances and everything, and being as equally adapted in both stances is a big help too. So it's always going to be an interesting fight, but one I'd be very excited to watch.
You're watching episode 1, you're up watching episode 2, and it's focusing on Crawford for 5 minutes, and you're like, Crawford's got this, Crawford's going to win it. And then it switches to Spence, and it's like, Spence has got this. And that's kind of how it is. I've always lent towards Crawford because I feel he's got more dimensions to his game. But also, then as obviously you're watching it, you're like, you're living it, aren't you, in these build-up for big fights. You're just a fan of both fighters, but the occasion, the magnitude of the fight, you're just living in it and you're absorbing everything. And your mind keeps flipping and flopping all the time. And I look at Crawford, and what makes Crawford so exciting as well is that it can be it. He does roll that dice. He does, his style, he doesn't mind putting himself in danger to get what he wants out of the fight, and those exchanges. And that could be his undoing against somebody like Spence. And then you watch Spence when Spence is up close, and when Crawford wants to go to war and when he wants to stand there and have a fight, you think, well, Spence could get to his body, and those body shots that he rips in, and you think, well, that could be his key to it. But then you watch Spence against Ugas, I think it was, and he looked like he was hurt a couple of times to the body. So then you think, well, Crawford could hurt Spence to the body. It's one of those fights, mate. I'm genuinely more excited for this fight than I've been for a lot of fights and for most fights in my time in boxing. It's one of those that are right up there because we've waited it for so long. Two knockout merchants, two clever boxers, two great fighters. I think boxing gets a lot of stick at the moment, but we're getting the big fights done. I mean, I was excited for Tank versus Garcia, and there's been all sorts of fights coming through. Haney against Lomachenko. We're getting the fights through, but people are just focusing on all the shit that's not happening. I like to focus on what's happening and these guys that are actually going in there and making the fights and putting themselves online. And for me, this is a fight for the ages. It really is. It's our era, the best of our era in that division. So if I had to have a gun pointed to my head just purely because I feel as though he has got more dimensions, I will lean towards Crawford. But it's literally, I can't say that and then say it's 50-50. It is 50-50, but if I'm going to lean to one side, then it's 51. It's 51% Crawford's favour. It's one of those. But either way, it can't fail to be a good fight. And I think as well, we don't want to see pay-per-view. No one wants to pay pay-per-view, but you have to. In this modern day, it's going to happen, that is. But I think I've seen the price point something like $19.95. That's a result. For me, that's a result. For that fight, the magnitude, what it means for boxing, what it is, it can't miss. It can't fail to deliver. So for me, $19.95, I'm happy to pay for that because it beats all the shit we've been getting at $26.95 and $24.95, all that. This is the fight for me.
Man, I feel like this is gonna be a fight of coaching, and it's gonna be a fight of just the determination. Determination. This is not one of those fights where, what guy got better skills and this and that. It's not one of those fights because both guys got it, and it's all about who is gonna, capitalize off of every mistake that's made in the ring, and I feel like the training that we do is pretty calculated. So it's just all about who makes the less mistakes.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that fight. Really interesting fight, and I think I called it as soon as it got announced. I've gone with Crawford, but again, you can't write off Spence. For me, I think the slightly better boxing IQ goes with Crawford. Spence has had a few eye injuries, a few layoffs that have been longer than Crawford's. So, but no, fancy Crawford that fight, but I expect a tough fight for Crawford as well.
Personally, I'd like Terence Crawford to be the victor. I think he's been a great champion over the years, winning his first world title, beating my good friend Ricky Burns, and then taking off from there. I think he was relatively unknown in the British shores until then, and then he's went and beat Ricky, and he's just really marched on with his career, and he's been a great fighter. Probably one of the best switch hitters we've ever seen, bar Prince Naseem, and I just hope he does it. Obviously, Spence is the more youthful man, but I feel Terence Crawford's going to go and give him a lesson.
I was split, and I said Crawford, then Spence. You know what? I'm going back to Crawford again. I've seen quit in Spence. Might not go down too tough, but you watch Spence's fight, times when he switched off, concentration switched off a little bit. You can't do that in this game, and that's a bad trait to have. If you're playing possum or what, I've seen quit, and I thought two top-tier, top-level fighters. If you got a bit of quit in you, you don't want to be showing that in a fight, and that's the only thing that splits the two of them. I thought you showed a side to your character that makes me worry, that makes me think, why? Where's that? Go through his fight, looks at his fight, look where he switches off, and you think, what's that about? Where's your mind gone? And that's the only difference I can make with the two of them, and that's what made me lean towards Crawford.
I'm leaning towards Crawford. Just think he's got. I don't know whether I'm not sure what Spence has got left with all the things what's happening outside. It's things what happen outside the ring what damage your career inside the ring, not necessarily all the things that happen inside. So I'd see what he's got left, but I think Crawford will.
Well, I just hope that it lives up to expectations because it's gone on for so long. It's took so long to get this together. you don't want it now to disappoint. You know what I mean? You want it to be the fight that we've all wanted and hoped and thought that it will be, and I think it will be. I do think it will be. Hard one to pick, but I'll go with Crawford.
What's going to be the difference?
Listen, they're both top, but I just think Crawford's got a bit more to him. You know what I mean? He can adapt, he can switch. I just think he'll find a way to win.
Errol Spence, pressure and body work, and I don't mean pressure with necessarily punches, but pressure with keeping the hands up and staying right there in Terence's staying right there in his range, you know. And for Terence, I think that maybe that one key for Terence might be I think body attack is really important for both fighters, but for Terence, I would say punch in between in between Errol's punches, you know. Errol does not punch where every punch is not meant to hurt. Every punch is not meant to land for Errol. And so that's an advantage for Terence. If Terence can find those moments where, hey, he's just pumping the jab just to be busy and find something and attack right there, those counter punches, you know. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go out on a limb and in the third round, I'm going to be making this announcement as much as I can. But after the third round is when I want to make my pick. If I'm not comfortable after the third round, I'm going to just tweet, hey, look for my pick after the fourth round. And I think that at most 5 rounds is what we'll need. And we'll be able to see who's going to win the fight.
Yeah, I think it's a great fight. And obviously, we as the public never thought that fight would happen, and it's been made, and you know, it's a great fight. And to be honest, I'm going to sway towards Crawford to beat Spence. I was in the corner when Ricky Burns fought Crawford, and he's just an outstanding fighter, and I think he can. He can read what you're doing all the time. He's one of them really smart fighters that can just read you. And I believe that he'll beat Spence. That's my opinion, though. Obviously, it's going to be a tough fight, and they're both great fighters. Spence a great fighter, but I just believe that Crawford is special.
Is he one which goes the distance?
I believe it will go distance, yeah. I believe it will go distance. But with Crawford, you never know, because, you know, just when you think you're doing all right in the 12 rounds, you can catch up with you late. So it may be a late stoppage for Crawford.